3, 2, 1. How Mitakiapi. We are the Title VI Indian Education social workers from the Office of Indian Education, and today we are going to be doing a presentation on mental health and resiliency through Lakota thought. We wanted to each introduce ourselves, and then we will talk more about what we will be discussing in our presentation today. So my name is Kyla Woodard.
Hi, my name is Mitchell Brewer.
Ham mitakiapi chantewashtia nape chuzapi Heather Wood amachiapi na lako chajemi khawaki wichakpi maniwi oglala lakota hemacha. I greet you all as relatives with a good heart and warm handshake. My name is Heather Wood. I use she, her, they, them pronouns. I am Oglala Lakota, and I am the Title VI Indian Education Social Worker at North and South Middle Schools.
Okay, thank you, Chue. So today our presentation will consist of several different parts. First, we will have Unchi, Ehtleen, Iron Cloud Two Dogs provide our Woksape, and then Tiblo Mitchell will share more about Rapid City Area Schools Whole Child Initiative, and then I will talk about Lakota thought and healing informed approaches, and then Chue Heather will talk about community care and self-care as it relates to resiliency and mental health, and then we have the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board connecting with their youth program, who will be sharing with us more about their program and their services to our Indigenous community here in Mini Luzaha. So I will go ahead and forward this. And Unchi Ehtleen here is going to share words here shortly.
Good day, my relatives. My name is Ehtleen Iron Cloud Two Dogs. Gina Ikik to me takes the road woman. I'm Oglala Lakota. I'm from Porcupine, South Dakota. I've been asked to do sharing on a Lakota perspective on mental health and resiliency. Before I do that, I would like to extend a greeting to all the people out there. We are all going through a tough time with the pandemic, and I would like to extend my condolences to all the people who have lost somebody to the illness, but also if you have lost somebody within the recent past or the past year, I'd like to just extend my thoughts to you and my sympathies. And I'd like to extend greeting to the youth, also to the young relatives that are out there. This time is a hard time, and I'd just like to really encourage you to keep your prayers strong and to be gentle with yourself and to be kind to yourself and to really appreciate that you were given a gift of life from the Creator and that you are a blessing to the people. And I just like to say to all the adults and families out there, thank you for staying strong. Thank you for being there for our young people and our children. With regard to mental health and resiliency from a Lakota perspective, I'd like to share with you a teaching about the teepee, the tiikja. Tiikja is a word for common dwelling. We are taught that whenever we put up a teepee, that we are reminded that each pole represents one of our laws or one of our relatives. For example, the 3 dots on this slide that are represented by our relatives. Bowichafpi, the morning star, reminder to pray every morning. Dayetu Wichafpi, which is the evening star, a reminder to pray in the evening. Wichafpi Owanshi Naji, which means the star that never moves, and is also known as the North Star, is a reminder to pray at midnight or pray before we go to sleep. So those 3 poles form the tripod. The tripod holds everything together. And if you think about what we need to hold our lives together or hold ourselves together, we need something very strong. So in the Lakota worldview, that is the prayer, the wochekye, which doesn't mean just prayer, it means sending a sincere voice for the future. So the prayer is really important. So I would really like to encourage people to think about, to consider, whenever you get up in the morning, get up before the sun rises and go out and look toward the east. You'll see a very bright star. That's the Bowichafpi, our relative, the morning star. Establish a connection with her. Establish a connection with the power that our star nation relatives have, and reach out and ask for a good day. Take some water and pray with that. In the evening, when the sun goes down, go out and pray to the rising moon. We have an evening star. It's very bright, but we also have our relative, the moon, Hahewi, and Hahewi is also a relative. So we would pray about the coming night and give thanks for the day. And at midnight, before we go to sleep, then we pray to our relative, Wichafpi Owanshi Naji. So the prayers are constant. They're always present. They're always practiced because we always need help. We always, not only do we need help, we also want to give thanks for the blessings that we have. So that can really lead to a frame of mind, a strong mental health, and also establish resiliency in our lives and establish a sense of being able to endure whatever challenges that come to us, because we have our relatives to call on, not only our human relatives, but our Star Nation relatives. So those 3 poles, those 3 yellow dots represent those 3 star relatives. Now every other pole is represented by the blue dots, and those blue dots are symbols of our 7 sacred laws. So the first pole to be put up after the tripod is Wa'ushila. Wa'ushila forms the doorway. So anybody that enters teepee is met with compassion. So we have a practice of offering refreshments, offering water to anybody that comes to our homes. But it's not just about our homes. It can be about the school. It can be about programs. It can be about communities, having that compassion for one another. Every other pole is also representative of one of our 7 sacred values: Wo'akwala, humility; Woksape, wisdom; Wachante ugnaka, generosity; Wo'achitkanka, fortitude; Wo'itika, bravery; Wa'ohola, respect and honor. So all of those laws surround us, and we were given these laws to live by and to put them into action. So how do we do that? For example, Wo'achitkanka is the word for fortitude, the ability to endure, or resiliency. How do we build that? How can we instill that into our lives so that any challenge that we are faced with is met with, first of all, with prayer, but also met with ma'ushila, with compassion, with wo'akwala, humility, with woksake, wisdom, with wachakta umaka, generosity, with moitika, bravery, and with wa'ohola, respect and honor. So fortitude isn't an easy thing to achieve, because it is easy to give up. Anything that we try, we might feel like giving up when it gets very difficult. But if we do call on our relatives, the Star Nation, we do extend our prayers out to the spirit world, and we will get an insight, we will get an answer, maybe somebody will come into our lives that will help us. So it's really important to look at it in terms of our responsibility and our accountability to live these laws according to how they were given to us, and so that we can have strong mental health, so that we can achieve resiliency. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening, and I'd like to thank all of the relatives out there that are trying their best to live lives of productivity, lives of being prayerful, lives of helping one another. And I'd really like to encourage all of us to treat each other with compassion, to treat each other as good relatives. Lamaya, mitakuye koyasi, all my relatives. I'm back to Washington.
So we just want to say Lila Wopila Tanka to Unchi Ehtleen for sharing Woksape and those words of encouragement. It's a good way to start out our presentation here today, and talking about how mental health intertwines with resiliency, not only for us as a people, but especially for our Indigenous young people during this time. So in Unchi sharing the Lakota 7 sacred laws, we thought that it was important as Title VI Indian education social workers and social justice advocates to share the social work values that we strive to achieve in serving our Indigenous students and families during this time. So the first one is service and social justice and dignity and worth of a person, competence, integrity, and the importance of human relationships. And just as Indigenous social workers, we strive to achieve both our Lakota values and our social work values. And we thought it was important to share this with the community, because really in the work that we do every day, we strive to work towards and uphold each of these values.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll go ahead and I'll just read this portion too. Social workers should engage in social and political action that seeks to ensure that all people have equal access to the resources, employment, services, and opportunities they require to meet their basic human needs and to develop fully. Social workers should act to prevent and eliminate domination of, exploitation of, and discrimination against any person, group, or class on the basis of race and ethnicity. That's the National Association of Social Work Code of Ethics, Section 6. Hi, I'd like to introduce myself again. My name is Mitchell Brewer. I am a member of the Oglala Lakota tribe. I come from the Brewer, Red Elk, Tiwahe. I am a Title VI Indian Education social worker with Stevens High School and Rapid City High School. Today, I want to give you overview of the Rapid City Area Schools Whole Child Initiative. For those of you who may be unaware of it or just may need a refresher. Okay. Okay, so the Whole Child Initiative was developed and is promoted by the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Federal Programs, along with the Title VI Indian Education Program. There are 5 themes, and those are listed here. Communities, healing, inclusion, learning, and diversity. These 5 themes encompass and surround the 4 initiatives of the whole child, all of which I'll be discussing briefly in the next slides. And these initiatives are in no particular order of importance, as they are all equally important. Okay, so why the Whole Child Initiative? Well, there are several key reasons. First, there was a recognizable need to transition into a focus which really promoted success and long-term development of all children, one that prepares our students to meet the future challenges and opportunities that will arise. And last but not least, to address the need to strengthen the social emotional skills with the understanding and recognition that there are students in our community with unmet basic needs and students who have been affected by traumatic adverse childhood experiences. Okay, cultural responsive Cultural responsiveness initiative is another key part of Whole Child. And here, this is to establish an equitable and inclusive learning institution by empowering educators and community with the knowledge, skills, and resources to become culturally proficient. This initiative is particularly important and focused on our Native American Indigenous students. Why? Because they are the largest minority group in the community with combined issues of historical trauma and institutionalized racism within the community. To meet unique educational and culturally related academic needs of our Native American students, to close the achievement gap. And lastly, to ensure Native students gain knowledge and understanding of Native communities, languages, tribal histories, traditions, and cultures. Okay, suicide prevention and awareness. So it is critically important that our district have policies and procedures in place to prevent suicide, assess the risk of, intervene in, and respond to youth suicidal behavior. Rapid City Area Schools has trained all staff and continues to train new and coming staff in QPR, which is Gatekeeper Suicide Prevention Initiative. Also, to create and promote more robust prevention efforts within schools to give students the tools to assist and empower each other. One example of this is the Signs of Suicide curriculum, currently used by several schools in our district. Okay, and restorative justice, another key piece. The restorative justice focus allows us to consider an alternative form from a punitive response or course of action to one that promotes the opportunity to address wrongdoing, resolve harm, build healthy relationships, and while instilling a sense of community. Here, our goal is to keep students in school and out of the juvenile justice system by reducing repeated negative behaviors, by teaching appropriate behaviors, and to repair the harm given by giving victims a voice. Okay, and lastly, trauma-informed practices. The focus here is to realize the widespread impact of trauma along with potential paths for recovery. Recognize the signs and symptoms of trauma in students, families, staff, and communities. Respond by fully integrating knowledge about trauma into policies, procedures, and practices. And lastly, seek to actively resist re-traumatization. Okay, and here it is, the complete whole child diagram. There are the four initiatives there, the four puzzle pieces connected, and the five surrounding themes of whole child. And you'll notice that this is a circle, which is a representation of wholeness and non-hierarchy as well.
How Hamitakiapi, Kyla Woodard Imachiapi. Hello relatives, my name is Kyla Woodard. My pronouns are she, her. I am Ogallala Lakota and from Thunder Valley in occupied Oceti Sakowin territory. I have been with the Office of Indian Education for the past 3 years as the Indian Education social worker, serving in both primary and secondary levels. I am most passionate about mental health, social justice, and collective healing and liberation of my people. I want to send a heartfelt thank you again to Unchi Ehtleen for sharing Woksape and teachings, and also to Thibault Mitchell for sharing our district whole child initiative. So today I wanted to talk about Lakota thought and perspective in regards to addressing the holistic needs and healing of our Indigenous people, and especially our Indigenous young people. So as it relates back to Unchi Ehthleen's teachings about the 7 sacred laws, it's important to know that these laws are the principles of who we are as Lakotas and our relation to the world around us and with each other. These are values to live by and to honor and uphold. Culture, language, and spirituality is a way of life and is essential to nurturing the Wakayaja, which means child, and the Nagi, which is spirit. It is very much a holistic approach to well-being. In Lakota culture, we believe that the Wakanyaja are sacred and that their spirits come into the world pure. Recognizing children as sacred beings and treating them as such is one of the underlying principles of the Lakota belief system. A child's health and well-being is the responsibility of the Oyate and not just the child or Tiwahe. So it really does take all of us as a people to raise healthy and striving children. As a people, we help to guide the child through their 4 stages of life. And it's also important for young people to recognize that they are sacred and that they are loved. So spirituality is defined as a sacred understanding of a connection with all of our relatives, and we are all connected by our spirits. Lakotas acknowledge this by a term called Mitakuye Oyase, which means that we are all related. This means that as relations, we must take care of each other, treat each other with dignity and respect, from human relatives to our 2-legged and 4-legged relatives, and our relationship with Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth, and the universe, such as the star nations. So in recognizing that our way of life is so important to the development of the Wakanyaja, it's important to understand that this is also the root of who we are. And as a people, we help to guide the child through their 4 stages of life called O Inaji Dopa. So this is really important in helping to support our young people, and then also to raise them with these Lakota values and the language and the spirituality. I was provided a teaching by Unchi Ehtleen and Gaka Rick, 2 dogs, regarding the importance of establishing kinship and seeing each other as relatives. Wotakuye means kin or relatives, and to chekichie means to honor by using kinship terms. Once you use kinship terms, you are extending your spirit and you are creating that bond. It is acknowledging that you are my human relative and that you belong to this kinship circle. This also is a code of conduct. So it also helps to create boundaries with each other. And addressing each other using kinship terms is important because it collectively says and shows who we will cherish forever and into the future. This is essential to foster a sense of identity and well-being and supports the mental health of our relatives. So as you could see here, Unchi, Ehtleen, and Gakarik said that Lakota people address each other by kinship terms as a way of kekichie, or appealing to address one another with humility and respect. So in relation to just trying to strive for healing for our people and moving forward from the trauma that our people have faced historically, is to look past just simply trauma-informed practices, but to really embrace hope for the future and the future generations by adopting a healing-informed approach. So a healing-informed approach, it emphasizes collective healing, and it recenters culture and identity as essential to well-being. This aligns with Lakota thought because our culture and our way of life is at the core of who we are. It also focuses on establishing safety. So this requires for us to also focus on establishing safety, and that might be in terms of physical safety, emotional safety, and spiritual safety. Healing-informed approaches also addresses the root causes of trauma rather than the treatment of trauma. So it doesn't focus on just treating the symptoms of trauma, but root causes of trauma. It is not an individual experience, but it's a collective one. And a healing-informed approach is holistic, culturally sensitive, spiritual, and involves civic action and collective healing. So as opposed to just looking at trauma usually focuses on just the individual experience. And trauma-informed care usually requires us to treat trauma in people, but provides no insight into how we address the root causes. So it runs the risk of focusing on the treatment of pathology, or just trauma, rather than fostering the possibility of well-being. So really taking a healing-informed approach, it goes beyond acknowledgement of the historical trauma, but also ongoing trauma exposure through settler colonialism, white supremacy, institutional racism, oppression, and discrimination. And it focuses and centers on our inherent strengths and resiliency and abilities as a people to move forward and to experience collective healing and liberation. So again, in thinking about a Lakota healing-informed approach, it recognizes the innate strengths and ability and resiliency of our people and us as a Lakota people. It is knowing that Lakota people have endured colonization and forced assimilation and mass genocide for literally hundreds of years, and that we are still here and we're strong and we still have our ways intact. We still have our language, and we're still here as a people and we're existing. So the Lakota, another Lakota healing-informed approach is just knowing that the Lakota way of life is essential to our health and well-being. Our ways intact, we still have our language, and we're still here as a people and we're existing. So the Lakota, another Lakota healing-informed approach is just knowing that the Lakota way of life is essential to our health and well-being. And another one is remembering to stay in prayer. So using our prayers to connect with our ancestors and to call on them to provide us that protection and that guidance, and to watch over us as we another one is remembering to navigate, to stay in prayer. So
these
using our
systems of
prayers
oppression and
to
our
connect
life
with our ancestors and to call on them to
and then honoring
provide
kinship
us
and
that
using
protection
kinship
and that
terms
guidance fosters identity and sense of belonging. So understanding that in order for us to continue to thrive as a people, that we need to treat ourselves as relatives and to be good relatives, and also understanding that by using kinship terms, it also helps promote a strong mental health and resiliency. So, and thinking about collective healing and liberation, that means that us as a people have the ability to heal collectively as a people, and then, as I mentioned before, creating safety is essential to working towards healing, and then being a good relative. And it's important to know that Lakota Healing Informed approach really stresses that it is community driven and it's for the people by the people. And it also recognizes and honors self-determination. So we inherently have the strengths and the abilities to make meaningful solutions on behalf of our people. And then one that has been proven to be like effective for the past 100 years is the importance of social justice and action, such as community advocacy and organizing. Historically and presently, we do know that this is a approach that we as a people have taken, and one of those examples, of course, is the No DAPL movement, and the movement really did awaken the nation to the immediacy of climate justice and the rights of Indigenous peoples. So with this, CWOY Heather is going to share a little bit more about what Lakota Healing Informed practices look today in our homelands. So I will pass it off to her.
Thank you, Mithankala Kyla. Okay, first I would like to apologize for virtually speaking before my elders today, and say a heartfelt thank you as well to CWOY Ehtleen for her encouragement and her beautiful teachings that she offered all of us. And as Misu Mitchell shared about the whole child and Mithankala Kyla shared about healing informed approach, it exemplifies how strong our culture is and how interconnected our worldview and understanding is as it relates to our resiliency and our purpose and our relationship to ourselves and our spirits, as well as one another. The next slide. Okay, so this slide has a beautiful image that was taken just within the past month. And it exemplifies what community care looks like today locally on Oceti Sakowin homelands. There's a few current examples of resiliency and how we treat each other as relatives and provide community care here in Miniluzaha Onthuahe. And Nitankala is going to share a couple examples with us for now.
Okay, so the first one has really stemmed from the global pandemic that is affecting our nation, but most importantly here in here in South Dakota. And also here locally in our community and the surrounding reservations. We know that pandemics are a huge, trigger for historical trauma, and that stems from disease and suffering that our ancestors have endured when the settlers came through Ocheti Shokoe homelands. So with that, community member Natalie cites means, and the community really provided support to our Indigenous community and relatives, and ensuring that those who were affected by COVID-19, whether they tested positive or if they were in isolation or quarantine, that they had the materials and needs to meet their basic needs at this time. So that was through food and cleaning supplies, and anything that our relatives who have been affected by COVID-19 needed during that time. And that was really a community response and effort, and goes to show that example of what we can achieve when we embrace our Lakota values and see each other as relatives, and that we are all in this together. So we felt that during this time it was important to really highlight those efforts, because I know that it's something that our community appreciates and really felt important, and like somebody cared, and that they were being thought of during this time. So with Natalie and the other community volunteers who really stepped to do that, we just want to say that we are so very grateful, and that we're lucky to have your example to follow and to live by. Wopila Tonka. And then another current example that has happened within the past week in our community is really holds a lot of historical significance for the Indigenous community in Miniluzaha. So the Rapid City Indian Boarding School was established here in Miniluzaha to house students who were, forced to live and stripped from their homes and their families. And it really was a source of trauma, specifically for our mothers and fathers, and grandpas and grandmothers who all had to go through that experience. And through the work of just community advocacy and organizing by Heather Dawn Thompson, LaFawn Janice, and community supporting those efforts to really bring awareness and equity and justice for the Indigenous community here was passing a city council resolution to restore the 1,200 acres of land that belong to the Indigenous community and the Rapid City Indian Boarding School. So that is a current example of what we could achieve when we organize and we advocate for collective healing and liberation. And this example is really just the epitome of what that means. So we just want to send a huge thank you to Heather Dawn Thompson and LaFawn Janice and the community here in Rapid City to support that, because it really is a source of collective healing and considering the effect of boarding schools and what that meant for our families and our communities. So Lila, Pila Mayaye.
I love how these images also, like just as you said, Mikankala, all of our values that are exemplified by these acts of community care and collective healing, and these images demonstrate what that looks like, and because it epitomizes the teachings and the significance of the teachings that CWOY Ehtleen shared with us about the teepee, and just how healing it is to reclaim our life ways and relearn and remember our language and our connection to the land and receive healing in that way, and together. And another example is of community care in our community is with the Miniluzahan camp and the Miniluzahan Creek Patrol. And there's some more pictures on this next slide. And this was an act of mutual aid that just came from grassroots, from community, from concerned relatives extending, their compassion and their bravery and their respect for our unsheltered relatives. And in this time, especially where we're experiencing these multiple pandemics, where they're at risk for this disease, as well as the rise in white supremacy and being victimized or harmed in that way. In addition, like just given the crisis of a housing and food shortage that we face. And so providing and responding to those needs by providing safety and safer environment and community through sheltering, feeding, and offering safety to those relatives who are struggling and who are unsheltered, and providing that. So providing that warmth and connection, like these images of the relatives standing around the fire and putting up a cookbook to feed the people, and just how beautiful all those different acts of mutual aid are and how healing they are. And just recognizing that is a collective commitment to work together to provide that and truly honor safety and self-determination of each other. So that is how important community care is, and then it's inseparable, just as all of our teachings and values and understandings are, that our self-care is just as important and connected to community care. And that is, you know, that understanding that spirituality is a way of life. Maybe you can go to the next slide.
Mhm.
Thank you. So this slide says seeking balance through healthy practices that nurture our spiritual, physical, mental, emotional well-being individually and collectively. So just maintaining that goal to live as good relatives into old age through spiritual resilience and connection to ourselves and everything that is. And just understanding and honoring those values that we hold dear and live by, strive to live by, as well as just our relationship to the land, to the elements, our nation, and all of creation. Knowing that we're just so deeply connected to our ancestors and our relatives who've come before us and who prayed for us in their time and who continue to guide us today. And us just following their example of resiliency, it's also humbling and encouraging to think about, especially as we're going through these difficult times collectively. Next slide. So again, just remembering in being resilient, it's all about that striving for balance and taking care of our physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, holistic selves. And some examples of this are, and ways that we can take care of ourselves physically, is the one that's most prevalent and at the forefront of our minds about safety in regards to COVID-19 and how important it is that we are very intentional about how we keep ourselves and each other safe, and how we truly recognize how interconnected we are and how important and how we carry that responsibility to take care of each other on that collective level rather than on an individualistic level. And that is there's an art piece here that my son did, just a reminder of keeping that buffalo distance space, what kind of space keeps us safe, and practicing safe social distancing. And just how important it is to keep our bodies, our physical bodies active, and just even if it's as simple as, you know, stretching, dancing to a favorite song, like doing artwork that's physical, and just getting movement into our bodies so that we are flowing and in a healthy way, as well as just connecting to our physical being, to our physical environment by making sure we get time outside and getting sunshine and vitamin D that helps our immune system, and breathing fresh air, and particularly those times that Queen Ehtleen mentioned when we can go out and extend our prayer for the day and for the future and for our loved ones. And then just understanding how important it is for our physical well-being to also make sure that we get plenty of sleep. I think a lot of people are struggling right now, like with healthy sleep patterns, and that's very normal when stress and anxiety is high, and so sometimes that can be a vicious cycle. And so just really practicing intentional nighttime routines is very helpful, and the more physically active you are, it also helps with sleep as well. And just physically nourishing our bodies with healthy food. We have that understanding of food as medicine, preparing our foods with a good heart and a prayer, and just how with a lot of intention that we're doing things in a safe way, and in a way that offers good health for ourselves and each other. Next slide. Going into how we can take care of our spiritual wellness, as Tui mentioned, how important the number one thing of wochekya and beginning our day and closing our day with prayer and offering, and asking for help. Also to utilize our practice of wazilya to smudge and cleanse the air and our environment, and help with centering our minds and getting in that good frame of mind and heart, and to, especially when we're going forward in difficult times, and just walking with wo Lakota and living our values in a peaceful way, and connecting spiritually is also being with the land and understanding like that we can receive healing ourselves through the land and our animal relatives, our plant nations and medicines and the different elements. And so finding ways of making those connections, especially during this time when we're not able to go to ceremony collectively, how we can do these things for our spirits, sometimes in solitude or just with our little families in a safe way, as just remembering also the opportunities if we can have our sacred site visits at the different changings of the seasons and constellations, and just recognizing and listening to our environment, and honoring and giving back for all these gifts that we have, just spiritually taking care of ourselves by validating and normalizing trauma responses with like what Mitwankala shared about healing-centered approaches and practicing self-compassion and support to others in need. I really loved what Queen Ehtleen said about just being gentle and compassionate with yourself, and just remembering that daily, just knowing that times are difficult and there is a lot of struggle, and it's okay to be experiencing difficulty at times, and that it's absolutely normal, and just understanding at this time too, when we're having so many tragic losses, and supporting grieving processes and ceremonies, and just being intentional with our words as a spiritual practice as well, and utilizing our kinship terms and relative terms, as well as just using and honoring and taking care of our traditional medicines, and learning more about our language and our culture, and practicing courage and speaking Lakota, particularly knowing that connects us to our ancestors who understand us. Next slide. Mental, the sharing of stories, ways that we can support our mental clarity and our minds and our sharpness, just by practicing listening is such a key one, of learning and listening, visiting with elders in safe ways over the phone if possible, reading, podcasts, webinars, taking healthy breaks from social media and the news, getting mental clarity through prayer also, and Azilia, setting goals, practicing routine, as well as just recognizing the interconnectedness of all of this. It's impossible to just speak just of mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, knowing that we're always striving for that balance. And so when we take care of our emotions or physical ways that we're holding on to stress in our nervous systems, that as we acknowledge and are intentional about relaxing and tending to those needs, it impacts the whole everything else. And so we can get more focus and clarity when we practice relaxation techniques with our body, and mindfulness practices as well, remembering to take like 5 deep breaths, and how it all impacts like our emotional wellness, and just understanding that emotions are always present. We always have emotions, and they're never wrong emotions. Some are difficult, but they're not bad. They are what they are, and feeling them and taking care of them with non-judgment and compassion is really, really essential. And just practicing what I spoke about just before was just regulating our nervous systems. And co-regulation means practicing calming our nervous systems and taking care of ourselves with another person, that looks like a mom soothing her baby and rocking her baby back and forth and singing. That's an example of that co-regulation and how it's just this reciprocal gift and impact, as well as just being able to express emotions in healthy ways, and rather than suppressing them, and knowing that it's always okay to cry. It's good to share and honor those different stages of grief that are painful and also necessary to move through and with, by seeking support for our emotions and utilizing calming and self-soothing activities. I love referring to young people on this one because they always have a lot of good ideas, especially music is always one that comes up, and being physically active, prayer and meditation, and just the best one, humor is medicine, and just finding times throughout your day to laugh and share that connection with another person, or by yourself. You can look up a funny video on YouTube and get some laughter and get some positive effects from that too.
So lastly, we wanted to share this opportunity for you guys to get to know an amazing program and service to our Indigenous community, and really embraces and just embodies what it means to incorporate Lakota healing informed practices. And here we have the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board, the Connecting with Our Youth program, who's going to share more about their unique program and the services and interventions that they use with our Indigenous youth to support their mental health and to strive for resiliency. So I'm going to share them now. And I just wanted to also share and just acknowledge CWOY Heather's amazing take on community care and just self-care in general. I know that this take and your sharing of your knowledge and expertise is just invaluable to our Indigenous students and community. So Wopila.
Mm.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. I am Amanda Flores and this is Techa Kichi Okijupi, Connecting with Our Youth program. And I'm going to hand it over to our first support navigator to introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Kellen James. I'm one of the support navigators.
Hello, my name is Connie Suksabat and I am another support navigator.
Hello, my name is Savannah Backward and I'm also a support navigator with the program.
My name is Keaton Widow and I am a support navigator. My name is Grant Weston and I am also a support navigator.
All right, thank you all. So, Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board. So a little bit about our organization is we were established in 1986, and the Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board is an organization representing 18 tribal communities in the 4-state region of South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. So our mission is to provide quality public health support and healthcare advocacy to tribal nations of the Great Plains by utilizing effective and culturally credible approaches. So it's a little bit about our organization as a whole. And more about connecting with our youth. is our funding was supported by the Department of Health and Human Services. It's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration through SAMHSA. We are a Garrett Lee Smith Tribal Youth Suicide Prevention and Early Intervention Program. And our project began in June 2019 and goes until June 2024. So our CWOY program serves American Indian youth ages 10 to 24 who live in the Haisapa area, so Rapid City area and Pennington County area. So next I'm going to hand it over to Kellen James.
So the Connecting with Our Youth vision is that we want to walk with American Indian youth in their journey in becoming sources of strength and spirit for their families, community, and future. So one of the programs that we work with is we have the CWOY Haisapa Collaborative. It's in conjunction with youth and community members. The CWOY Haisapa Collaborative is a guiding body for the CWOY program comprised of several community partners. The current CWOY Haisapa Collaborative, we currently meet on a monthly basis, and we also have a CWOY Haisapa Youth Collaborative. Currently, due to the pandemic, we have not been meeting regularly, but we are looking to have youth join our the online program that we have. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to our program. I will go ahead and pass it off to Kami.
So our Connecting with Our Youth program consists of 4 parts: the CWOY Support Navigators program, the CWOY mobile app that we are currently trying to develop, the CWOY Community Partners Training Program, and the CWOY Native Community Response Team. And today we're talking about our Navigator program. So our Connecting with Our Youth Support Navigator program consists of 5 support navigators, which you all met us. The CWOY Support Navigators offices are currently located at the Lakota Lodge at the Oyate Health Center on the Susan campus. Right now, due to the pandemic, we are all working from home, so our offices are at home. The CWOY program also has a part-time SRO officer, Eric Dwyer, and he is located at the Rapid City High School. And I will pass it off to Keaton.
So the CWOY Support Navigator program employs a culturally based approach of engaging, guiding, and linking American Indian youth to services and supports following a behavioral health crisis. And these support navigators will conduct community outreach, advocacy, case management, and education tailored to the needs of the individual youth participants in the program. So the criteria for the CWOY program participation is that they be American Indian youth age 10 to 24. They should be residing in Pennington County, and the youth experience any one of the following. It might be suicidal thoughts and or ideations, a suicide plan, self-harming and or cutting behavior, substance abuse, or trauma, past or present. And I'm going to pass it now to Savannah.
So these are the types of referrals that we receive. It could be an agency referral, partnerships with Monument Behavioral Health and Rapid City area schools exist as a primary source for referrals. However, any agency can refer participants to the CWOY program. The SRO in Rapid City Police Department, CWOY employs a Rapid City School Resource Officer and partners with Rapid City Police Department. Parent, caregiver, any concerned parent, grandparent, caregiver, or guardian can refer a youth participant to the program. Self-referral, individuals age 18 and older may self-refer to the program if they would like to participate. And then participation in the CWOY program is voluntary. So this is kind of a breakdown of the referral process. A CWOY-informed consent or agency release of information is received via fax or email to the CWOY program manager. The program manager then assigns the referral to a support navigator for follow-up. An appointment is scheduled at a time and place convenient for the participant and family if applicable. The support navigator meets with the participant to discuss the CWOY program and completes an assessment of safety and needs. And then if the participant enrolls in the CWOY program, the support navigator will continue to meet the participant and family, if applicable, to make referrals to appropriate resources to help meet needs and to develop a healing plan. And I will pass it to Grant.
These are the services offered by the CWOY supportive navigators: transportation, support and encouragement, development of healing plan and goals, education of self-care, coping skills and wellness, development of a critical incident plan, cultural connectedness, which is ceremony, church, inipi, cultural education and activities, assistance navigating healthcare system, assistance scheduling appointments, assistance finding support groups and support systems. The CWOY contact information: we have a referral fax line 605-719-5137. Our program manager, Amanda Flores, 605-721-1922, or cell phone 605-858-3804, or email address amandaflores@gptchb.org. We encourage anyone to contact us if they have any further questions. Wopila tchanka, bitakoye oyasi.
So these are the 5 amazing connecting with our youth support navigators and program manager, Amanda Flores. We encourage you to reach out to them if you feel like this is something that you or your student is interested in. Currently, some of us have been working with them, and we are just so thankful for them offering this service and being in partnership with us to be able to support and serve our Indigenous students and families. And again, we're just really thankful.
Hi, everyone.